Hi Hill City, welcome to our online conversation. We've been posting these every time we are on a house church week to talk about the sermon from the previous week's corporate service. We're in the middle of a series called Letters to the Church. It's from the book of Revelation, covering the 7 letters to the 7 churches in Asia Minor. And we are currently on the church in Philadelphia. And John preached last week about this letter to this church in Philly. So, John, do you want to summarize what that sermon was about and what the letter said?
So the letters to the church of Philadelphia was about being locked out of the synagogue. This church was going to the synagogue. They were part of culture, and the Jewish religious leaders, they were like, no more, and they got shut out. So here's Jesus writing them a letter about their situation, about being shut out from the synagogue. And he says, you know what? You think that they give you access to me. He's like, no, I give you access. And the doors that I open will remain open, and the doors that I shut will remain shut. And he's just reminding the church in Philadelphia, like, I see you. I see that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and not denied my name. And so I love that. It's like sometimes there's so many times in our lives we don't think that God sees us because we're going through all the things that we're going through. We're being shut out of these areas. But Jesus tells us, no, I'm the one who opens the door. I'm the one who gives you access. I'm the one that you need. And I see you and I love you. And so last week we were just going through about endurance, about not giving up. This whole message goes around this thought of do not give up, endure patiently, hold on, the King is coming. And all throughout it, that's what we talked about endurance. And you know what? Everyone likes to talk about endurance, but going through endurance is like, it's just, you can feel the tension in your body of those moments of our lives that we go through endurance. But I just wanted to let you know that in those moments, because no one gets to skip those moments, that Jesus is the one who's with us. He sees us. He sees our strength, even if it's going well or if it's going bad. And he says, endure patiently. I'm with you. I'm with you. What are some thoughts that you saw that within the sermon or just the verses itself that really stuck out to you?
I think one of the biggest thoughts that stuck out to me, which we have talked about, I feel like quite often, because I know this is on your heart a lot, is just how culture shapes us and disciples us versus how the word speaks about how we should be discipled. And specifically in this, for this topic of endurance, I know you brought a lot of that into the sermon. What does our culture tell us and how does it shape and form us? Usually it's in terms of instant gratification, lack of patience, trying to make everything faster and better and bigger, I think were some of the words you used. And when we are shaped by the culture being like that, by every mode of life, work, home, entertainment, selling that message, then it's really hard to, on the other hand, start growing in the area of endurance. So I think that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I'm mentoring a student at Denver Seminary, and his goal to work on the previous semester was patience. And so one of the goals, and this is kind of reminds me of John Mark Comer's book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, because he talks about gamifying your practice of patience. But
talk about that.
Yeah, just the whole idea of giving yourself small goals that feel almost like, you know, like when you're in a video game and you level up because you've been doing something over and over again and you choose to do something hard to level up, basically. And the student actually chose to drive in the slow lane, to have to drive a certain amount of hours of his commute in the slow lane to practice patience. But this is so, the only reason I bring that up is it's so opposite to what our culture teaches us to do. And our culture's forming us in a way of lack of endurance and lack of patience.
Yeah, that's so true. It reminds me of the song that life is a highway. Life is a... But I was just really thinking about your thought, and the thing that really stuck out to me is like, we are being discipled right now by our fast-paced culture to not have any endurance.
Yep.
To like want things immediately. And if we don't get things immediately, we get flabbergasted, we get exhausted so quickly. I know that's true for me. Like if I'm not getting things done quickly, I start to get exhausted.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on within me? And Lord, like, show me that my endurance is lacking, because we are truly being discipled by our culture. And I wonder, like, for you who's listening, what is fueling your discipleship, or who is fueling discipleship? And those things, what messaging are we getting a hold of? And it's becoming our world view, because it's like we're just so saturated in it, and we don't even know that those things are becoming our world view. So that we don't have patience, we don't have endurance. Perseverance is cool to talk about, but it's not something we actually do. And like you said, I wonder what it would look like if we began to slow down. And I love the words, be more human. So Dallas Willard. I wonder what it would look like if we became more human like Jesus, where we could be present, fully present, not like halfway present, like, you know, oh yeah, you know, or and what would it look like if we were actively listening, like instead of like posturing our body to just hearing information, posturing our body to like be present and to like intently listen, because they need to be heard, they need to be loved. I loved the sermon you preached about how listening is loving, and that's how neurologically we take that in. And if we did that in a way of discipline or gamifying, and not saying it's a game, but in training, that we would do the opposite of what we're being trained in right now culturally, and to put ourselves under the tutelage of Rabbi Jesus. Yeah. That sounds so John Mark Comer, so I apologize, but yes.
It's any spiritual formation teacher, right? Yeah, and I think along those lines that we can so often think that the daily things we do, like a drive, like how we listen to people, how we, you know, when we go to a work meeting, are we actually listening? Are we, you know, texting on our phone underneath the table, or maybe right in front of them?
Yeah.
How do we interact with kids? You know, if you have kids at home, what you do on a daily basis, just in your normal interactions with them. All these little things that don't seem very spiritual are actually the chances we have to build endurance in life and practice patience and put on Christ and show the fruit of the Spirit. All those things the Bible talks about aren't meant just for a sort of far loftier spiritualized goal.
That's what I was going to say, spiritual. These are spiritual things, and these are regular things.
Right,
this
but
is my
our
spiritual
regular
life.
things are spiritual things.
Absolutely, absolutely. The way what we do, and when you were talking about just like coming home, and like for me and being with my kids, I was challenged to like, what would it look like if the first hour of being with my family, I put my phone on airplane mode for an hour?
Yeah. Like,
as an investment into my family, to be like very present without notifications going off on your watch, going on. We talked about phantom like notifications, right? Or like really they're hallucinations, where we don't dismiss hallucinations that we get. We normalized such busyness, we normalized hallucinations because that's what our culture is discipling ourselves in. But what would it look like to put things aside, like on purpose, for the goal of our family, and also for as a goal of following Jesus? Normal things disciplined in our lives as a goal of following Jesus, right? Discipleship. And I know that here at Hill City, we talk about practicing the way, discipleship, training. Like it is literally in our core values. because we have found in our walk of faith and in just walking with God, there is no transformation without training. And because I was brought up in a way where it's like, one day everything's going to change and you're going to love Jesus. That day has not come yet, right? I never had this like one moment, like I had great spiritual moments with God, but didn't transform my life. It was just a catalyst into apprenticing under Jesus. And I wonder if we would change our worldview, if we would change the framework of what it meant to follow Jesus. Into the idea of discipleship.
I think along with that, which was such a big important idea in the sermon, the other thing that stood out to me was just the whole encouragement about your season. And I know you quoted a verse out of Galatians, I believe, just about not giving up, because in due season you will reap a harvest.
If you do not give up.
If you do not give up. And so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that whole idea of season and endurance.
And the idea of season endurance is like, I wanted to dress up as a farmer, but then I had this whole like baton thing. So I was like, I can't be both.
He had a, if you haven't listened to the sermon, he had an illustration about a race. So he was carrying a baton. That would have been funny to be a farmer. Carrying a baton.
But like, as a farmer, like I just told everyone, you are a farmer. Think about that. And a farmer, no matter what's going on, no matter what season you're given, you have to keep watering, keep plowing, and keep planting the seeds down. Especially in the middle of a storm, in the middle of like when the winter goes too long, we still have to do all the work that it takes, because that's the season that we're in. And sometimes your season, I called it the middle. So much of our transformation happens in the middle. And we live in a culture where it celebrates the beginning, like where the gun goes off, you're so good, you're an entrepreneur, and you're gonna do great. And then at the end, the finish line, look what you've achieved, right? Yeah, woo, you finished the race, arms up, right? But most of life happens in the middle. And if we get caught up, especially through our discipleship, through our culture, and our discipleship through like our like just self-desire, but if we say, oh Jesus, help us in the middle. Jesus talks about the middle so much, about the training, about the enduring, about going, like being in the middle of seed planting and the harvest. I want us to be training in the middle, doing the work, doing the discipline in the middle. Because that's the only way we can celebrate the harvest, the end. And when is it season? How long is this season? Who knows? That's the hard part.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. And I was even telling the church, like, there's people who come up to me, it's like, when are we going to go get a church building? I was like, in due season. Who knows? I don't know. When is this going to happen for us? In due season. Well, when is that? It's when it is. And I know we don't like, especially for like type A, we don't like those answers, but those are the answers that God gives us. He says, remain faithful, keep training, follow me, like be my apprentice. And so don't give up, endure patiently, like hold on. And the last part was so important, because the King is coming. The King is coming. And when is that? When is the King coming? When he is in due season. And I can't tell you when Jesus is coming, but I can tell you that between now and then we have to run the race, our race marked out for us. And don't worry, just run your race. And you might say, I'm not doing good. Keep running. You're going to get to your destination. Our part is not to be someone else. Our part is to do what Jesus told us to do. He gives us the baton. He says, this is what I've been doing. And will you continue bringing heaven into people's lives? Will you continue like loving people when they least expect it and least deserve it? Will you continue believing? Will you continue enduring? Because in due season, you're going to hand off the baton to me. And don't worry, I'm going to finish the race and we're going to win. So the Bible was set up in this way that it tells us that Jesus wins the race. That there will be a day when the King will come and he will win the race. But our part till now and then is to take the baton and run our leg of the race and continue to do what Jesus did and to do the vision that he's given us in the middle of it all, when we're not feeling good, when we're sick, when it's hard, when it's long, it feels like a wilderness. Don't worry. Keep on going. He sees us, and because the King is coming. And we'll just end with that. I just want us to be reminded, don't give up, right? Endure patiently. Hold on. The King is coming. God bless you guys.